Howdy, David here. I spent 45 years working at NASA, and if you'd known me from when I was young and my background, you never would have thought that that's where I would have ended up, but I did. So I thought I would share with you a little bit of how that happened. I was born in London, England, in the rather poor southeast section area. My family were poor. Fortunately, I had an aunt that lived in Canada, and so my parents, being very kind and very caring about me and sacrificing themselves, emigrated to Canada, and I spent 10, 12 years living in Canada, and then I went to school at the University of California, Berkeley. So born in England, lived in Canada, went to UC Berkeley. Never really was a science fiction fan, never was a fantasy fan, never really paid much attention to the space race, as it subsequently was called. But I do remember when I was very early in kindergarten, elementary school, that the teacher came into the room one day and said, "Children, this won't mean anything to you right now, but today the Russians launched a satellite called Sputnik, and years from now you will remember this day. It's a very momentous occasion." And she's right. The teacher's gone, the satellite's gone, many have gone after it, but still I do remember that day. But that was my only real exposure to space. I went to school at Berkeley and I took a degree in economics, nothing space related, but as every other student, I was doing teaching assistantships, getting whatever money I could from a variety of sources, but still it was hard to make ends meet. So one summer I saw a sign at school at UC Berkeley that said, "Wanted intern to work at NASA Ames Research Center to study the economics of pest management." Well, economics was right up my alley. Pest management I didn't know anything about, but there were two professors from the University of Michigan that were doing the study, or maybe it was Michigan State, I think actually Michigan State, and they were doing the study. So I applied for the job. It was halfway from my home to school and halfway to NASA Ames Research Center, so it was very convenient for me. I applied for the job and I got the job. So I worked there for that summer on the economics of pest management. And what I mean by that is they had a model that allowed for putting sensors out in the field to measure temperature, pressure, wind direction, and a variety of factors like that. They would use satellite relay to bring the data back to a central location where they had a model, and they would use this model to predict the outbreak of certain agricultural pests. In this particular case, it was a pest called the cereal leaf beetle. So they would relay all this data back, use it to predict the outbreak of this agricultural pest in various regions, and then apply spraying strategies to address it. I don't know, it was very early for its time, but it was a project I learned a lot about. The professors were great to work with, but I got to work on economic matters. Didn't know a lot about pest management, but didn't really need to. And so I worked on this study, and it was really fun. I worked, of course, for the university professors, but the man I was very close to on a daily basis was an astronaut Al Warden. And so you can imagine, even though not really a space person, it was kind of exciting to be working hand in hand with an astronaut, and everybody around me was older than I was and more experienced and kind of impressive. So it was a great place to be. I went there not really having a lot of feel for space, but working there that one summer, I developed a feeling for space, for the space race, for NASA, and for the whole environment there. I just thought it was great. So one of the most unlikely people in the world to end up at NASA, and there I was. I went on a summer program in 1975 and worked there for 45 years. So what can we learn from this? Well, I can tell you what I learned from it. You think you have a path forward, and you need to have a path forward, but you won't always follow your path forward. It could diverge, it could change. You don't know what directions it will take. You must be open to opportunity. You must be willing to consider alternatives, and you must be positive. You must adjust to what comes along, and you must make the most of what opportunities you get. Certainly that was the case for me at NASA. I loved it. I still love it, and I'm glad I was there. So I'll share a little bit more next time about some of the other things I learned, some of the experiences I had, and why it was such a great experience for me. So take care, everyone.